Tips for Noobs. Episode 3. Okay folks, today's tip is all about staying on the edge of the map. What do I mean about that? I mean the centre of the map is a very dangerous place to go. So straight off spawn here on Detroit, I run towards the edge of the map. Now I can choose to go in two different directions. I can choose to go into the middle of the map, or I can choose to stay on the edges of the map. So here's the map itself from the top. I've tried to put in some highlights there. Run around the edges, stay on the edge, because if you're on the edge of the map, people can only attack you from 2, maybe 3 different directions. If you're in the middle of the map, and I could have used any map here, but Detroit, there's about 8 or 9 ways people can kill you. People can come from all sorts of directions. Now, just referring back to tip number 2, episode 2 of my tips for Noobs, remember I said pre-aim your corners. Look, here's a great example of me pre-aiming the corner, the 2 spots that somebody could come from there. So I just want to remind you about episode 2, go back and watch it if you haven't yet. But what I like to do is stick to the edges of the map. Now that doesn't mean to say right on the edges, and I do go through the middle at some points, but the more often you are in the middle of the map, the more often you will get killed. Advanced Warfare, as we all know, is a very, very fast-paced game, which means people can come at you from all angles, much, much more so than any previous Call of Duty. Now look, boom, there we go, first kill. It's taken me a lot longer, and that's what happens when you stick to the edge of the map. You don't just run into the middle and immediately get a kill off spawn, or die off spawn. It takes you a bit longer to maybe get that first kill, but after that then what you've got to do is just work the edges, and I know that nobody can get me from the left here, nobody can get me from the right, but somebody could come from the front and somebody could come from behind. So what you're doing is you're limiting the opportunity for people to kill you. By being out in the middle, people can come from 6, 7, 8 different directions, and there's no way you can watch that, and there's no way you can account for that. And by speed boosting and by double jumping, they can come up over the top of you as well in the middle of the map. So if you're a noob and if you're trying to improve your kill-death ratio, then what I would suggest is trying to stay around the edges of the map, flanking your opponents, trying to work your way around as you're pre-aiming the corners every time you come round as well. These are a couple of hints for you that should definitely improve your kill-death ratio. Now, this building here in Detroit is actually in the middle of the map, but it's not out in the open, and there only is 3 ways that you can come in or out of that building. So it's another good building to be in and working your way around, and if you do want to use the middle of the map, then so be it. Now here's what I mean. Off spawn I could have gone in this direction here, and I could have ran out into the middle of the map. I would have had a very early engagement with somebody if I'd done that, but I would have possibly died, and even if I hadn't died, I would have died very quickly by somebody else, even if I'd managed to get a kill. So what I like to do is definitely just stick to the edges. This applies to almost all the maps in Call of Duty. If you're on the edges of the map, then you know that either your left or your right or your behind is absolutely covered. There's no way anybody can come from that direction. So you're able to keep a better idea of what's going on. Now here's an example of me coming and rushing out into the middle of the map because I got cocky with that bomb kill that I got there. I run out in the middle of the map and look what happens. Boom! That guy who's camping that door. Now, that's an extreme example. You see it in the kill cam here. He's sitting camping that door, either because he knows I'm coming or because he's a bit of a camper. But I ran out there and died. Now, you don't die every time you go through the middle of the map. In fact, I go through the middle of the map a little bit later in this video, and I do absolutely fine. I cut through the map to quickly get to where I think the enemy is. I just mean the more often that you are out in the open and out in the middle of the map, the more often that you will die, or you're certainly giving yourself the ability to die. Now, as you get to be a much better player, then the middle of the map is a great place to be. If your reaction times are on point, and if you're able to spin around and kill people, then you will absolutely do well as a really, really good player. But if you are a noob, if you are somebody who's got a very poor kill-death ratio and dies much more often than you kill people, then I would suggest staying to the edges of the maps. So that's really sort of episode 3 in a nutshell, is sticking to the edge of the map. And if you combine it with episode 2, which was pre-aiming the corners, then what you'll find is that you will very, very quickly start to push your kill-death ratio up, and you'll start to get much closer to a 1-to-1 kill-death ratio, and ideally you will start getting above a 1-to-1 kill-death ratio as well. That means in games like Team Deathmatch, where kill-death ratio isn't the be-all and end-all, but it is important because everybody has to try and go positive. If everybody goes positive, you win the game, essentially. Much different in objective game modes when it might be all about trying to capture the dom point or capture the flag, and certain people definitely put themselves up for getting kills in those objective-based games. But for team deathmatch, which is what the majority of people play, and definitely what I play the majority of the time, then kill-death ratio is actually quite important, because that's how you win team deathmatch. So we'll wrap it up there, folks. If you combine today's tip, which is sticking to the edge of the map, with episode 2's tip, which was pre-aiming when you go around corners, then these are 2 tips that will definitely help improve your kill-death ratio. And combined with the next episode, which, a little bit of a spoiler, it'll be all about the mini-map, then that's 3 things when you use them together will definitely help you. Now, you'll see in this game I go 11 and 11, which is a 1 kill-death ratio. Nothing spectacular, but it was because I stuck to what I know best. Craigie's out.